Overwatch has had some really cool and out there collabs these past couple of years. We recently got a huge collab with Sanrio, and we aren't any strangers to anime collabs like with My Hero Academia and One Punch Man. It's safe to say that a Pokemon and Overwatch collab isn't so far-fetched. Being a huge Pokemon nerd, I thought it'd be fun to go over what a possible Pokemon and Overwatch collab would look like. Instead of narrowing it down to only a few Overwatch characters like they usually do in these type of collabs, I decided to go all out and give every character on the current roster their own Pokemon to match. I thought it would be more fun to have the Pokemon skins to be as if the Overwatch characters are cosplaying as a Pokemon, instead of giving them actual human characters like Ash Ketchum or gym leaders. While I will go over what Pokemon skin each character would have, some characters will have a paragraph and a half dedicated to them, while others may only have one sentence worth. Listen, it's a lot of characters, okay? And this video is already going to be long enough. So, let's not waste any more time and get on with the Pokemon collab. Starting first off on tanks, we have everyone's favorite bunny gamer girl, Diva. Diva was really easy to pick a skin for. Honestly, any of the bunny adjacent Pokemon would fit, though the obvious clear winner here would be Lopunny or Baneri. Diva as a Baneri and her mech would be a Mecha Lopunny. You could also make the mech resemble a shiny Lopunny to keep the original pink colors of the mech. I also thought that Azumarill will be a fun option as well. It would give the same vibe as Diva's Wave Racer skin. I can also see the devs making Diva a Lopunny and her mech the colors of a Pokeball. That way, it would look like a Pokemon inside of a Pokeball. Now for Domina, I thought she would be a bit more difficult to choose a Pokemon for, but I instantly had two in mind. I think Diancie would be an excellent pick for Domina. Diancie is based off a pink diamond, and Domina's personality is sort of like a diamond in the rough. Domina's Crystal Charge ability shoots out a light projected diamond shape, and the devs could easily change her shields and abilities to be pink instead of blue to reflect Diancie's colors more. Her shield could be tweaked a bit where each shield panel could resemble more of a diamond shape instead of hexagons. The other Pokemon I was thinking was based more on vibes and aesthetics. Cinccino would make for a very cute skin for Domina. Cinccino has this posh look to them and is based off a chinchilla. We learned through Domino's and Lucio's interaction that Domino's favorite animal is a chinchilla. Of course, for more morbid reasons like using their fur as coats, but we could make that reality by Domina's Cinccino skin have her wear the white scarf part of Cinccino. Doofus was rather easy to choose from as well. Machamp or Hitmonchan are excellent choices, since they both emphasize on punching or just using hands in general. Doofus's gauntlet would become a giant boxing glove for his Hitmonchan skin. Doofus would easily wear Hitmonchan's purple outfit. Now, for Machamp, while we are used to seeing Doofus shirtless, they would really make some money with having Doofus wearing just, and I mean just, Machamp's wrestling belt. A less popular Pokemon choice that I personally think would work best and be cool to see incorporated into a skin is Crabominal. Crabominal has the largest pair of punching claws you will ever see that would look really good on Doomfist. Doomfist having a skin based off a Yeti crab would be unique, especially if they went with Crabominal's mega design. When Doomfist is shooting with his hand cannon, you could have tiny icicles shoot out instead of bullets. Crabominal Doomfist has so much potential to be a highly creative skin, and I would love to see an underrated Gen 7 Mon get pushed into the spotlight. Hazard would 100% be a Nidoking. Nidoking and Hazard have too many similarities for it to not be canon. Nidoking is purple, Hazard has purple colors locked into his design, they both got spikes coming out of their backs, Hazard's jagged wall is a giant rock wall, which Nidoking is part ground type and can learn rock type moves. Hazard's ultimate Downpour shoots out purple spikes from the sky, which reminds me of Nidoking's Poison Sting, or really any of his poison type moves. I feel like Nidoking really fits Hazard's personality and design. These two are the perfect fit. For Jungle Queen, I put down Haxorus as the best Pokemon choice for her. Jungle Queen wearing Haxorus' armor would look clean as a skin. Haxorus colors work well for that Junkertown vibe, while giving a sharp and menacing look for the queen herself. Joker Queen's command and shout is loud and mighty, sort of like a dragon's roar. When she shouts, you'll be able to hear Haxor's battle cry. Her axe will be made to look like Haxor's tusks. Along with her axe having his tusks, she would also wear a helmet with the tusks sticking out of them. Her executioner skin is a good baseline idea to build on for a Haxor skin. I was also thinking of Cleaver with his giant stone axes, but I felt like Cleaver's bug aesthetics doesn't mesh well with her theming quite like Haxor's does. Maga brings in the heat, which is why Magmortar is the perfect match for him. Maga's chain guns will be made to resemble Magmortar's hand cannons. Magmortar is a fire-type Pokemon, and of course Maga is all about setting his enemies on fire. When Maga charges in, it could be made to look like he is using Flare Blitz. I mean, come on, just look at Magmortar's snarky grin. He's got the same attitude as Maga. Orisa is another easy Overwatch character to give a Pokemon skin for. Any of the horse Pokemon would fit her just fine. If I had to choose any of the basic horse Pokemon, I would go for Mudsdale. Mudsdale's ground typing fits well with Orisa's grounded personality. However, I actually had a different Pokemon in mind. I'm going a bit out there when I say that I personally think Palkia would be a perfect for Orisa. Specifically, Origin form Palkia. Origin Palkia resembles a horse after all, and I just think this Pokemon would make for an amazing legendary skin. Palkia's wings on Orisa to make her a Pegasus would look sick. And how funny would it be to finally give Origin form Palkia some arms with Orisa? This skin is definitely more for purely aesthetics than trying to match Orisa's lore or abilities. Although, I feel like they could make Palkia's theme and work with Orisa. When she does Terra Surge, you can have the green aura around her become space colors, like she is dragging them into a spatial rend. Ramatra is an interesting character, and I really like his backstory. It's about revenge and liberating his fellow Omnics free from humans. I feel like I heard a similar story with a certain Pokemon, a certain legendary Pokemon that was made out of Mew's DNA. Mewtwo. Mewtwo is a psychic type, so you can go along with the fact that Ram's Shields is actually a light screen or a reflect. Mewtwo can learn the move Gravity, which sends flying type Pokemon to the ground and enables them to be hit with ground type attacks. Ram has the same idea with his Ravenous Vortex ability, where it slows down enemies and brings characters down when they are in the air. Mewtwo does only have 2 arms, however, so I can see where they might struggle with the design when Ram is in his Nemesis form. I came up with the idea that when Ram activates his Nemesis form, the extra 2 large arms he gains become semi-translucent purple arms made out of psychic powers. Think of it as Ram manipulating bio or hard light. Ramatra's ultimate fits Mewtwo so well, suffer as I have. Ram's ultimate is just Mewtwo unleashing all his psychic energy after years of being experimented on. We haven't had a starter Pokemon as a potential skin yet. It's time to change that with Reinhardt. Reinhardt would be a chestnut. Reinhardt is a very loyal and for glory hero, which according to Chestnut's Pokédex, they are the same. Chestnut will run into battles and use its own body to shield its allies from danger, just the way Reinhardt charges it and using his shield to protect his teammates. Reinhardt's shield is the most important ability in his kit, so that's why I chose Chestnut, since his signature move is Spiky Shield, where it protects itself and damages foes if they use a physical move. Chestnut is covered in armor, and its design is inspired by the tank class in fantasy, so of course Reinhardt is a perfect fit. It's also recency bias, so I feel like showcasing a Pokemon that just got a new Mega Evolution will be right up their alley. Speaking of Mega Chestnut, upon Mega Evolving, he gains a staff, which would of course be Reinhardt's hammer. While I think Chestnut is the Pokemon that would be best for his skin, another Pokemon that fits with his theme is Sirfetch'd. Sirfetch'd has a shield and also wields a giant leek, which, you guessed it, would be Rein's hammer. Sirfetch'd is very chivalrous and very knight-like, just like Reinhardt. Roadhog would be Emboar. I don't think I have to go into detail about this decision. They're both pigs and even rock a ponytail, when Ember Mega Evolves. For Sigma, it took me a while to pick out a good Pokemon that would fit his character or playstyle, but I'm actually quite happy with who I chose. Hoopa Unbound fits Sigma's mental capacity and his gravity situation, with Sigma being able to chuck Hyper Spears at enemies, and Hoopa can create Hyper Dimensions. Not only would the skin look tough on Sigma, but you could give Sigma extra cosmetics to go along with the skin. Like, Sigma's shield, instead of being a light blue, could have the same colors as one of Hoopa's dimensions. Hoopa Unbound is designed after a genie, and his form is trapped into a prison bottle. How fitting that Sigma has a voice line when he is nano boosted where he says, "Release me!" As if Hoopa Unbound wants to be released from the prison bottle. Winston would most definitely be a Rillaboom. I mean, they're both gorillas, a gorilla and a scientist. And Winston would absolutely rock Rillaboom's leafy hairdo. It would be pretty cute if they made an emote where Winston is rocking out on Rillaboom's wooden drum set. Wrecking Ball is a hamster, and I realized that Pikachu, being the electric mouse Pokemon, would make the most sense for the Pokemon collab. However, there is a more fitting electric rodent that so happens to also be a hamster. Morpeko. Hammond can be a little feisty at times during some interactions with others, which can resemble Morpeko going into its hangry mode, where it goes off on others in a rampage until it finally eats. Wrecking Ball's ball will be made to look like a Pokeball. It would be cute to have a little Hammond be caught inside a Pokeball. Wrecking Ball's minefield could have little animations of electricity jolting out of the mines to align more with Morpeko's electric typing. Zarya deserves a good skin for once, so I'm hoping they consider giving her a good Pokemon. A lot of fighting type Pokemon fit Zarya's bodybuilder profession, so it would be a no-brainer that she would get a tough-looking, big muscle strong Pokemon. And that's why I decided to go with a cute cuddly bear Beware. Just cause Zarya is buff doesn't mean she can't have a cute skin. Beware may look friendly and cuddly, but looks can be deceiving since it is considered one of the most dangerous Pokemon due to its intense strength. I realize that Beware doesn't really match any of Zarya's kit, but you know what? I'm the one in charge here, and I say that Beware Zarya would go extremely hard. Okay, now that we covered all the current tanks, let's move on to the DPS role and what Pokemon would work best for each character in this collab. Onron is a fiery flanker who isn't afraid to rise from the ashes when she is pressed to the extreme. Onron is associated with a phoenix, and there are quite a few fiery Pokemon that are also based on phoenixes. Talonflame, Moltres, including Galarian Moltres, and Ho-Oh are the main ones that come to my mind. Out of all those options, I think that Ho-Oh fits Onron the best. Ho-Oh has brought Pokemon back to life from the ashes, which one of Onron's ultimates has her rise from the ashes for a second fighting chance. And Ho-Oh's Rainbow's Feathers would make a good cosmetic for Onron's weapon fan. I'm reaching for these next similarities, but Onron's Dance and Blaze ability works for Ho-Oh since in Pokemon, the Kimono girls perform a traditional dance to summon Ho-Oh. Onron's Inferno Rush, you could say that it's Ho-Oh using its signature move Sacred Fire that encaptures the enemies in flames, which Onron's kit is all about setting people on fire. Emray's lore is a bit sad to be honest, but one of the more interesting lores we've had in a long time in Overwatch. He is now controlled by the Conspiracy, which is sort of like a virus that completely takes over his body and mind at times. I decided that Deoxys will be a perfect fit for Emray. Deoxys is a virus that came from space and is a highly intelligent psychic-type Pokemon. Deoxys has different forms, so you could play around with Emray's ultimate where he gets Overgrowth to transform into a weapon. They could change into a different Deoxys form, like his defense or speed form. Vendetta's main weapon is her giant sword, so I went with two different Pokemon that I think work well with her. The main Pokemon I think would look so cool for Vendetta is Ceruledge. Vendetta will be wearing Cerulege's armor, and her sword would resemble the ghostly sword hands that Cerulege has. Vendetta's abilities can be easily customizable to match Cerulege's moveset. Vendetta's projected edge could be made to look like Psycho Cut. Whirlwind Dash would be Fire Spin, and her ultimate Sunderin Blade will be no other than Cerulege's signature move, Bitter Blade. The other Pokemon I was thinking of that would also work is Honedge. Although I can see Honedge being used as a weapon skin rather than Vendetta's entire wardrobe. Her sword would literally just be Honedge and that's it. When choosing a Pokemon for Ash, I also had to take into account for Bob. Do I choose some Western or farm Pokemon like Miltank and Tauros, or do I go with Pokemon that are in the same evolution line? I settled on going with a more simple, yet cute, choice for these two. Plusle and Minun are an iconic duo, so I had to go with them. Bob as Minun would look so adorable with the negative cheeks and his little subtraction tail. This skin would be more of an epic skin in the collab rather than a legendary, since I fear while the Plusle and Minun outfits would be cute, they are simple, and there's only so much you can do with these electric rodents. Ash and Bob would get an emote where they both do a little dance together like they're using the Pokemon move Helping Hand. Side note, who's your favorite out of the two, Plusle or Minun? I was always more of a Minun fan myself. Bastion is an Omnic that has PTSD from being on the front lines during the Omnic Crisis War. While I absolutely hate going against him, his cinematic is one of my favorites. I decided that Golurk would make for a cool Bastion skin. Golurk was created to help both humans and Pokemon and is described as a perpetual motion machine. Both Bastion and Golurk were created with a direct purpose in mind. They are two sides of the same coin. Bastion could reconfigure into a turret as the main core of his moveset. And I bet some of you didn't know this, but Golurk can also reconfigure, but instead of a turret, Golurk turns into a cannon. Bastion's bird friend, Ganymede, would also have a Pokemon makeover. Any of the first root bird Pokemon would work, but I personally would choose Pidove to match Golurk since they are both from the same generation. Cassidy is a cowboy, so naturally he needs a Western-themed Pokemon. I present to you Cacturne. Cassidy's cowboy hat would turn into Cacturne's scarecrow hat, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, his outfit would be very similar to Harley's from the anime. They could go down the route where they make the skin look more like a creepy scarecrow since Cacturne is kinda horrifying. Cassidy's gun would shoot out pin missiles instead of bullets. For his ultimate High Noon, how funny would it be if the tumbleweed that rolls on by was actually Brimbleghast instead? The best part of having a Cacturne skin is that Cassidy turned into a giant cactus scarecrow would just make the interaction between him and Sombra that much funnier.
Every time I need a laugh, I look at your search history.
Let me guess. Last night around dinner time?
Cactus spines in butt. How get rid of?
Was I supposed to leave them in there?
The Pokemon spin-off game Pokopia recently came out not too long ago when recording this video, where you are playing as a Ditto rebuilding a deserted Kanto. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to keep up the hype for the game and have a character represent Ditto. That Overwatch hero would be no other than Echo. Ditto can transform into any Pokemon or really anything and everything, which matches Echo's ultimate ability, Duplicate, where she can transform into and copy any targeted enemy player. Echo would be all purple but have Ditto eyes instead of her normal eyes. The collab skin would be an epic skin rather than a legendary due to the fact that it resembled too closely to one of Echo's other skin, Slime Queen. I had a bit of trouble trying to fit a Pokemon to Freya. There isn't a Pokemon that uses a crossbow or throws a bola, so I had to get a little creative here. With Freya's good positioning and the fact that she can linger in the air for a little while, a flying type Pokemon would probably be the best choice for her. Taken into Freya's personality and her job as a bounty hunter, I think that Staraptor works best. Staraptor leaves its flock behind and hunts for itself. similar to how Freya left Overwatch's search and rescue behind and became a bounty hunter. Staraptor's iconic bang would look great on Freya, and her cape would be made out of Staraptor's feathers to look like wings. If we want to connect the dots even further, Staraptor has giant talons. And you know who so happens to work for the evil organization that's also named Talon? That's right, Freya. Genji is one of the few characters that has an obvious Pokemon that seems to be made for them. For Genji, that Pokemon is Greninja. Both are ninjas and have a very similar moveset. Genji's shurikens will be made to look like Greninja's water shurikens, and for his ultimate Dragon Blade, his dragon would also be made out of water. A Greninja-inspired outfit would easily fit Genji, and make a lot of sense since Legends ZA DLC came out not too long ago, so I can see them use Greninja to promote the DLC. Hanzo would look good as a Decidueye. Decidueye uses its own feather quills as arrows, and of course Hanzo's main weapon is a bow and arrow. Whether it's Hisuian or Alolan, I can actually see both of the Decidueye forms fit Hanzo. However, I'm a fan of Hisuian Decidueye for Hanzo. Hisuian Decidueye's signature move is triple arrows, where it quickly fires 3 arrows. It reminds me of Hanzo's storm arrows. Hanzo's dragon would have small leaves twisted around the dragon as if the dragon is using Leaf Storm. For Genji and Hanzo, there is another fun option that they could do for their skins. It would be a matching skin set for the iconic Gen 5 dragons, Reshiram and Zekrom. Reshiram and Zekrom are yin and yang, and represent truth and ideals, where Reshiram represents truth, while Zekrom is ideals. They are also both dragon Pokemon, and as we know, both Shimada brothers wield dragons. Genji would be Zekrom, since his future is full of aspirations, dreams, and hope since he joined Overwatch, while Hanzo would be Reshiram. He has a grounded mentality and accepts reality with head-on facts, yet he is not opposed to seeking out truths. Dragon Blade and Dragon Stride's dragons would be black or white to resemble Zekrom or Reshiram. I really want these skins for Hanzo and Genji. Not only would them as Reshiram and Zekrom look gorgeous, but lore-wise, these Pokemon are amazing for these two. For Junkrat, I do think that his kit would have the Pokemon cosmetics to them, instead of Junkrat himself getting a Pokemon skin. His explosive grenades would be modeled after Voltorbs, his steel trap would be a Galarian Stunfisk, and his ultimate Riptire would be a Whirlipede. It would be a fun idea to just go all out on his weapons and make them Pokemon, but knowing Blizzard, they would stick to probably just the character skins. If I had to choose a Pokemon for Junkrat, his fiery hairdo reminds me of Infernape, so we'll go with Infernape. May is a cutie patootie whose whole gimmick surrounds ice. So of course, we need a cute ice-type Pokemon to represent her. I decided that May would look lovely as a Frostlass. She could wear a kimono that is very similar or a near copycat of Mega Frostlass's outfit. Her robot friend Snowball would have a skin to resemble Glalie. That way Snowball and May would be both in the Snowrun evolution chain. May's ultimate is called Blizzard, which of course, being an ice type, Frostlass learns the move Blizzard, so it all works out. I can see May and Snowball getting a new emote to show off both their Frostlass and Glalie skins. Now for Farah, I've seen a lot of people suggest Charizard as a possible skin. However, I think that Dragapult is perfect for Farah and is a much better choice. Dragapult shoots Dreepies like missiles out of the holes on its horns. Farah's ultimate barrage is her shooting out a bunch of rockets at once. How awesome would it be if they replaced her rockets with tiny Dreepies? Farah can fly because of her combat armor, which is no problem for Dragapult since he's a ghost type and can just levitate wherever they want. I'm a fan of Dragapult's color scheme and personally think it looks so good on Farah's mech suit. And then we have Reaper. Reaper would look good as a Gengar, and they both do share the same edgy vibes, but I personally think Darkrai would be even cooler. Both Reaper and Darkrai resemble Grim Reaper, and they play around with moving within and out of shadows. I feel it could stylize Darkrai's entire concept better for a Reaper skin. Also, Darkrai is the main DLC poster boy for Legends ZA, so why wouldn't they want to show off that Pokemon? I had a couple of ideas on what Pokemon Sojourn would rep. Since Sojourn has a pet corgi named Murphy, I thought it would be cute if Sojourn was dressed up as Yamper, their electric corgi Pokemon, or even Yamper's evolution, Bolton. Sojourn is pretty fast when she is sliding into action, and Bolton is known to be one fast dog Pokemon. Her Disruptor shot could be made to look like some sort of electric ball of energy to represent Bolton's electric typing. The other Pokemon I was thinking about is Lokix. Lokix has an extra pair of legs that it can use to extend its jump to charge it into some sort of a super jump. I was thinking that it would work for Sojourn's Power Slide ability. We can use that for an extra power jump for better positioning. Either Pokemon, whether it's Bolton or Lokix, would be an epic skin since they wouldn't be too much to add cosmetic-wise, although a spray where Sojourn is holding a Yamper would be super cute and well worth it. Soldier 76 would be Braviary. Nothing says American Patriot more than the American bird Pokemon Braviary. They could go with the Hisuian form, where when Soldier 76 uses his ultimate, his visors would look like Hisuian Braviary's purple headflame eye headpiece thing. I have nothing else to add. Braviary just belongs to Soldier 76. Sombra is the best hacker on the planet. Since only the most fitting, she would have a Porygon and upgrade it to the point where it becomes a virus. Sombra as Porygon Z would play on the fact that Sombra throws out viruses and can hack anyone and anything, so giving her a Pokemon that is a literal virus is fun. It's just fun. Another epic skin, since Porygon Z's design isn't that flashy, but I think Porygon Z's colors would look fun and funky on Sombra. For Symmetra, I went with trying to match her move kit more than her personality or lore, so I went with Lucario. The orbs that come out of Sim's Photon Projector reminds me exactly of Lucario's Aura Spear. Lucario also gets a new Mega Evolution with Mega Lucario Z, which would look better as a skin for Sim than regular Mega Lucario. With Mega Lucario Z, you also have more aesthetics to play around with, especially with a tail that looks like a shark tail. I was also thinking that Gardevoir would be the next best choice for Symmetra. Gardevoir's dress would look pretty on Sim, and there are similarities between Gardevoir's moveset and Symmetra's kit. They could turn Sim's Photon Projectile purple instead of the light blue to look more like the move Shadow Ball. Gardevoir can learn the move Teleport, and, well, Symmetra can create teleporters. I couldn't think of anything for Sim's turrets for either of these two Pokemon, so they just stay the way that they are. Torbjorn would have a Pokemon that no one would expect, but is absolutely perfect for him. And that Pokemon is no other than Tinkaton. Torbjorn is an engineer, and Tinkaton is also somewhat of an engineer. Tinkaton builds its own hammer out of metal, usually out of Skarmory and Corviknight's feathers, but it is a very crafty Pokemon. Tinkaton wields a giant hammer, and Torb also has a hammer. While not as big as Tinkaton's, it is still menacing having Torb chase you down, swinging at you with his tiny hammer. And, if you look hard enough, don't you think that Torbjorn's beard and Tinkaton's hair look oddly alike? Tracer is, or at least used to be, the face of Overwatch. Being the face of a franchise, it only makes sense to be paired up with the face of Pokemon, Pikachu. Pikachu is a fast Pokemon, so they would fit Tracer zooming all over the place. Tracer's blink animation could have little sparks to indicate Pikachu's electric type. I also think that Celebi also fits Tracer. Celebi would be a more fantasy-looking skin, sort of like Tracer's mythic skin. Celebi can travel back in time, and Tracer's ability Recall makes it so that she can go back in time to where she was a few seconds ago. Venture would definitely be either a Diggersby or an Excadrill. Both Pokemon like to burrow deep in the ground, and digging into the ground is sort of Venture's specialty. You could get more skin cosmetics out of Diggersby, and it would be a cute skin to have Venture dress up as a big, goofy, fluffy bunny. Although, having Venture's drill look to resemble an Excadrill would be pretty peak. Or, if they really want to get the most bang out of their buck, then they could have Venture be a Diggersby and have their drill resemble Excadrill. Widowmaker would easily be a spider Pokemon. Most likely an Ariados, since Ariados is a bug and poison type. Widowmaker throws down a Venomine that poisons whoever comes in contact with it, so that's where Ariados' poison typing comes into play. It's a boring choice, I know, but what other Pokemon matches her playstyle and vibe as good as Ariados? I was also thinking maybe Gliscor could come up close, but I fear that skin would resemble Widowmaker's Scorpion skin way too much. Wow, that's a lot of DPS characters. But we finally got through them all. Well, minus Sierra, since as I'm writing the script, she's very new, and I haven't had a chance to play much of her yet, and get a good read on her to confidently match her with a Pokemon. I am, however, comfortable with choosing a Pokemon for these next characters in the support role. Jetpack Cat is my new favorite hero. She's wicked fun to play, and is a cute cat. I love cats, so I was sold day one. Really, any of the feline Pokemon would work just fine. The most sense would that they would choose Meowth because it's the most recognizable cat Pokemon due to Team Rocket and nostalgia. I personally want to see Fika as Sprigatito. This is 100% biased on my end, and I have no good reason why Sprig would be the perfect feline Pokemon, except that Sprigatito is my favorite grass starter and in my top 5 Pokemon of all time. I would actually spend a gross amount of money for a Jetpack Cat as Sprig. Overwatch, make it happen. Mizuki would be fun as a Ludicolo. Mizuki loosely resembles a Kappa, and that yokai is what Ludicolo's design is based off of. Ludicolo rocks a big sombrero lily pad on its head like a hat, which would make a perfect skin for Mizuki's overly sized large hat. If they decide to do middle evolutions instead of first stage or last stage, then Lombre would be a better fit for Mizuki than Ludicolo due to Lombre's more neutral personality. I could also see Mismagius as a skin. The ghostly Pokemon is perfect for Mizuki's fear of curses, and Mismagius has a cool hat as well. I would personally love to see a Witch Mizuki skin. It would give Witch Mercy a run for her money. I can see Anna being either a Noctowl or an Inteleon. Inteleon is based off a Spy and is known to be a sniper Pokemon. Inteleon's signature move is called Snipe Shot, and its Gigantamax form is Inteleon using its tail as a perch and sniping its enemies down with a literal water gun. Inteleon has small arm cape things that it can also use to glide for a bit, which Anna could utilize in her collab skin with her cape. It would also be cool if they made her sniper rifle look like water as well. Inteleon isn't the most well-liked Pokemon starter, so any chance of getting a nice redemption is always welcome. For Noctowl, I was basing that Pokemon choice mainly off of Anna's Snow Owl and Night Owl skins. Another epic recolor owl skin, but I like Noctowl, so I will let it pass. Baptiste would most definitely have a skin based on Chansey. Chansey is the Nurse Joy Pokemon that usually works at the Pokemon Center and heals others. Baptiste gives out excellent heals, and the way that Baptiste gives out heals is by chucking healing grenades at teammates. His healing grenades could be made to look like Chansey eggs, which are known to heal and cheer up anyone who eats them. I would love to see Brigitte as Komodo. Brigitte is an engineer and armor mechanic, and according to the Pokédex, in the past, people processed and used Komodo scales to make weapons and armor. So, it would make sense if Brigitte made her armor out of Komodo scales. The scales at the end of Komodo's tail looks like it reminds me of Brigitte's flail whip. When Brig uses her ultimate rally, instead of horns playing, it could be Komodo's in-game cry or the sound of cymbals clashing to represent Komodo clashing its scales together. Ilyari harnesses the sun for healing and fighting capabilities. I was originally thinking of going with Solrock, but I think that's a little too on the nose. Honestly, the best Pokemon that would fit Ilyari is Volcarona. Volcarona was feared by ancient people and was nicknamed the Rage of Sun. However, it was also worshipped by some as the embodiment of the sun. Knowing Ilyari's backstory, this Pokemon does a good job with worshiping the sun, yet being very fearful of the harm it can cause. Ilyari can sort of fly or hover in the air for a bit when she uses her ult, and Volcarona can just fly since it's a moth, which makes this Pokemon work even more for her. I can also see maybe, and I mean maybe, Solgaleo as a possible Pokemon collab skin, but I still think Volcarona would work best for her. Juno is from Mars, so I wanted to give her a Pokemon that came from outer space. Surprisingly, There are quite a few Pokemon that have connections to space. Out of them all, I think that Clefable is the go-to pick. Clefable really is just Juno's Pokesona. Not only is Clefable super cute, just like Juno, they both have a flying mechanic. Clefable has small pixie wings, and when they Mega Evolve, those wings become much larger. Juno can hover and double, sometimes triple jump, due to her Martian boots. Juno's torpedoes could have a special cosmetic where they resemble shooting stars as if Juno is using the move Swift. Or, even better, they would be Corminiers when used. A Juno Clefable skin would look so incredibly cute. You know what other Pokemon I was thinking would be a fun take for Juno? Gothitelle. Imagine a more chill goth skin for Juno by having her wear Gothitelle's dress. It would be different than what we would normally expect for a Juno skin, yet it would still look very cute, and I promise you, her hair won't be blonde this time around. It wouldn't be a true collab if Kiriko didn't get a skin. Any of the Fox Pokemon would work for Kiriko. Along with Kiriko getting a skin based off the Fox Pokemon, her Anima Fox would be just a Pokemon in itself, but in a blue light to make it rock that spirit vibe. I feel like they would choose Eevee, since at this point, Eevee is basically Pokemon's second mascot. Hisuian Zoria would be cute and fit Kiriko's snarky and fun personality, while Hisuian Zoria's ghost typing fits her Fox Anima. Personally, I would like to see a lone Ninetales for Kiriko. Not only would the skin be gorgeous, but a lone Ninetales closely resembles Kiriko's Fox Anima. Kiriko's weapons would also have some special cosmetics to them. Kiri's kunais would look like mini ice daggers to reflect a lone Ninetales ice typing, and her Suzu would have colors of a heal ball. For a Lifeweaver, I can see him being a Xerneas. We obviously need as much Legend ZA content as possible for these collabs, so one of the main Gen 6 legendaries will do it. I mainly chose Xerneas because not only would Deer Lifeweaver be a goated skin, but because Xerneas is a deer that is a tree, which of course, Lifeweaver has a giant pink tree for his ultimate. Xerneas is the embodiment of life, and it so happens that Lifeweaver's ult line is of course, life protects life. I pictured that for Lifeweaver's ult, that the tree would actually just be the tree that Xerneas becomes when it's dormant and preserving energy. You actually wouldn't have to change the cosmetics of Lifeweaver's kit, since the pink on his petals, grab, and even his ult matches Xerneas' fairy typing. I could see Lifeweaver getting a sort of representation with Quaquaval. Lifeweaver's flowers would be perfect for Quaquaval's floating water feathers. Also, that Rudden animation? Yeah, it's like Quaquaval was made for him. Lucia would break it down as Politoed. There's just no competition with this decision. A Politoed skin would most likely be a recolor or a slightly modified version of Lucio's Ribbit and Hippity Hop skins. If they wanted to branch out from making Lucio another green frog, they could always choose the blue frog, Seismitoad. Joining Kiriko, we need more Mercy skins. So of course, she wouldn't miss out on this collab as well. I initially thought that Audino, especially Mega Audino, would look cute for Mercy and keep within the Doctor theme. However, Mercy's playstyle is having fun slingshotting herself in the air and around the map, and Audino unfortunately doesn't have wings or a means to fly. I needed a Pokemon that not only is a healer, but can also fly, which is why Togekiss was made for this reason. Togekiss is a dove, and doves are often associated as a symbol of peace. Togekiss is known as a bringer of blessings, which I feel like that describes Mercy pretty well, especially in that cinematic scene where she flies down to have a little girl trapped in some rubble. Rare for a Mercy collab skin, but I actually feel like this wouldn't be a legendary skin, instead it would be an epic skin. The most I can see them changing for the skin is having her wings be exactly like Togekiss. Like they ripped them right off that Pokemon and just attached them to Mercy. To the opposite of Mercy, we have of course, Moira. I have such a funny skin concept for her. Moira would be a Hydreigon. Hydreigon's Pokédex states that the heads on its arms do not have brains, but all three heads consume and destroy everything. Moira consumes the energy from enemies and throws out damage orbs to destroy everyone that is hiding in a small room. I thought it would be funny and cute if each of Moira's hands were actually small Hydreigon's heads. One Hydreigon's head consumes the life force of foes, and the other head destroys the hopes of your enemies, killing off your teammates by healing them back to full health. I'm a big fan of this concept, and I fear this would be the best Pokemon collab skin. Wu Young would look great, all dampered up as an Empoleon. I wanted to go with a water Pokemon that could play with his kit very well, and Empoleon does just that. Let's compare Empoleon's learnable moves to Wu Young's abilities to see the similarities. Wu Young's Russian Torrent is Empoleon's Aqua Jet. Guardian Wave would be Surf. Wu Young's controllable water orbs is just Empoleon repeatedly using Hydro Cannon. And finally, Wu Young's ult, Tidal Blast, would be Wave Crash. For weapon cosmetics, his staff would become a trident to match Empoleon's headpiece. An emote they could add is having Wu Young do a walk animation with a Piplup falling right behind him. How adorable would that be? And finally, here we are. Our final support hero in the last Overwatch hero as to date to cover Zenyatta. There are so many good choices for Zen. I could see Yuxi, since Zen is a monk filled with wisdom and Yuxi is known as the being of knowledge. Alakazam, especially Mega Alakazam, would also really work. Imagine instead of Zen's healing orbs, they are now just floating spoons. I was also thinking of Medicham. Something about Medicham just works for Zen, probably due to the fact that it's often meditated and its Mega Evolution pairs well with Zen's ult. Mega Medicham has several strands of cloth floating behind Medicham that could work as Zen's extra pair of arms when he uses his ultimate. Any one of them would work for Zen. Which psychic Pokemon do you think would make a good Zenyatta skin? I'm personally rooting for Medicham. Okay, I think I got out pretty much everything I wanted to yap about a Pokemon and Overwatch collab. There's just so many Pokemon and heroes they can choose from that would make this collab fun and amazing, and it would be a shame if this collab never came to be. Gen 10 is coming up in the following year, so perhaps they're just waiting for the timeline to get closer to announce a Pokemon collab. While we wait, I'd like to know, what are some Pokemon you would like to see, and for what hero in an Overwatch Pokemon collab? I plan on doing more Overwatch collab idea videos, though probably not as in-depth as this one was, so if you enjoyed this video, please like and let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!